Ah, Michael. Good to see you, young man.
Good to see you too, Gary. You doing okay?
Oh, of course I am, Michael. Just sweeping up the dust I'm soon to join. The theater is all ready for you boys.
Is Teddy here at all?
Oh, yes, they're at the counter just cleaning up before they take off.
Thanks, Gary. Hey, you.
Hey, I made sure the theater was all set up for you two. You're gonna be great.
I'm really sorry you're not able to stay on.
I'll always be here in some way, you know that. You guys got this. Also, I'll be back when I have something to say. You can't get rid of me that easily.
Thanks for helping getting this started, Teddy. None of this would have happened without you.
You better get in there soon, otherwise you'll miss out.
See you later.
See you around.
Hey, Ben. Are you here? Hello?
Welcome to Friends on Film, the movie podcast where two friends discuss their favorite thing in the world.
Their family?
Oh, well, no, their second favorite thing in the world.
Oh, real estate.
Okay, fine. Their third favorite thing in the world.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be...
Movies! I'm Benjamin Trevino, and joining me today is Michael Andrew Dinan. How are you doing?
My man, I'm doing so well. How you doing, buddy? You looking good.
Man, I just can't wait.
How was your New Year's?
My New Year's was actually really fun. It was kind of almost last minute. I go to a party and I hung out with some friends. We even played for the first time in my life a little bit of Animal Crossing.
You haven't played Animal Crossing before?
Funny enough, I haven't. I don't want to go too much into tangent, but yeah, it's one of those things that came to me really late. I thought my sister would have been into it, but no.
My island of Bumblyberg needs a lot of attention. I haven't played Animal Crossing in a long, long time, but I'll be back in there.
We'll cross that bridge on another podcast.
Well then, I believe it's time to talk about our best, worst, and favorites of the year.
Exactly. And here's the funny thing. Ironically, if you look at the box office numbers for a lot of the movies that came out this year, some would probably suggest these movies weren't good. But you know what? We go in with an open mind. It's the best way to approach it, because guess what? If you go in with an open mind, you'll be pleasantly surprised, like I was a good chunk of this year.
Oh yeah, let's get into it. And we're going to start here with, first off, our worst of the year list.
Ooh boy.
But let's make it clear. Making movies is really freaking hard.
It's hard just to get the right schedule and the right day with the right people and to make sure like everything just goes the way you want it. It's all not even just in a day's work. It's all 6 months to almost years.
Almost literally like 2 to 3 years. A director will
Yeah.
sit with a film like for 3 years almost. And so we really hope that anyone who is listening that does hear our worst of the year list know that we do not hate anybody involved with these productions. We want them to keep making movies and to keep entertaining us and to learn from this year and to keep making stuff for years to come.
Yes, we're not trying to knock anyone. This is not us saying this is why this movie sucks and you're wrong for it. This is us saying this is why we didn't like this movie.
Keeping this in mind that any frustration that we express is towards these people's work. It's not towards them. At the end of the day, these are just movies. Them being good or bad does not ruin our lives in any way. So please take everything we say with a lot of salt. All right, so I'll start with my number 5 for this year. My number 5, fun fact, my worst of the year list, I actually will recommend the first 2 movies on here. To some people, I actually did like them, but I can admit objectively that they've got problems.
If I had to guess, this is more of a morbid curiosity sort of situation, huh? See, you know what? That's interesting. Let's hear what you got.
My 5th worst of the year is Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, I will say this. I will say this. It is actually very well directed. It is well acted. The practical effects of this movie are insane.
They popped right out of the game.
The sound design is spectacular. And I think it's also very well paced for what they were trying to do. Where I think the movie falls apart is in its script.
Yes.
I think this is a good story. I think when you're trying to take the premise, it works. but the dialogue feels very awkward and stilted. And I feel like the actors are able to elevate it, but it should just tell you how awkward some of the dialogue and the execution of the story is.
Yeah.
And it's also not a very scary movie. There's like 2 horror sequences in the whole movie.
I would say the beginning is probably one of the
Okay,
only
so I'll make that
creepy-
3.
Yeah, that's probably one of the only creepiest moments in the movie. It's like yeah, your intro to it, and then you get like 2 seconds of PG-13 Saw at one point.
I think the 3 that I like, the 3 scenes, it's of course the opening, then it's when the teenagers attack and they get their comeuppance, and then when Hutcherson's character is basically talking to them through the dream sequence, and we know he's in the pizzeria, and they start attacking him in the dream, and your imagination starts playing of what the frick are they doing to him in the pizzeria?
Mhm.
Like, that is genuinely some good stuff that makes me go, okay, this works. And I would still recommend this to horror newbies if you're thinking about getting into horror, if you have kids who
Yes.
want to get into horror. This
I'd
is
say-
a perfect movie for them. And I'd still recommend it. I think the execution of it, though, just kind of falls flat in a few
It's
areas.
let's put it this way, even if you do enjoy this movie, you can admit this is a movie that very much plays it safe.
Mhm.
But like you said, this is why it's good for you to show people who are just getting into something like this. The movie also, if I'm being honest, you like you said, scriptural problems. Without going too much into spoilers, this is a dynamic that usually wins me over in movies. It's the brother-sister, older sibling dynamic when they have to work together to overcome something. That usually wins me over in movies. I'm not saying it was like bad here. It just didn't win me over because, like I said, it's played a little too safe, especially again for horror. But to the movie's credit, the acting, thankfully, helps pull that through when Hutcherson is talking with, say, the cop friend that he makes in the movie.
with Vanessa.
Yeah, Vanessa. And but other stuff though. Are we going to talk spoilers? Maybe.
I think we will put a quick spoiler warning here for all these movies that we will be discussing some minor spoilers, some heavy spoilers.
Yes.
So
I would probably say this is a heavy spoiler because this is when we first meet the creatures. So if you don't want to hear that, probably might want to,
skip ahead a little bit.
skip ahead a little bit. So when we first meet the creatures, at the very least, or a sequence I remember, is when the little sister goes wandering around when she's not supposed to, and then she comes across the creatures, and then we hear her screaming, and Hutcherson wakes up from his little nap time, and he goes over, and they're playing with her. Now, at first, you're probably thinking, oh, okay, so they're probably just messing around. No, we go forward into making pillow fortresses with party tables.
I've heard some people trying to, the justification of like, well, there's still children in there.
Yeah.
And I can see where you're coming from, but it's still very awkwardly
It's
executed.
very awkwardly executed, and like you said, like the set design and everything, and even the practical effects on the monsters, they are intimidating, and you would probably be scared if they started walking up to you. But then you see pillow fortresses. And
now,
it's
the
just,
atmosphere of this movie is absolutely brilliant.
Yes, at times it can be, especially in the dream sequences,
Mhm.
because it is one of those moments where it tries to keep you a little bit on the edge of your seat on who these kids are. But again, without spoiling too much, the movie sadly doesn't dive too deep into it. This is where the whole playing safe comes in, which I won't talk about here because I'll let you see for yourself.
Yeah. What would you say was your 5th worst of the year?
Oh, it was very much Five Nights at Freddy's too, because like you said, I'd recommend it very much if it were if it's your kid or if it's your first time going into the horror phase. If you're like say 10 years old and like, oh, that looks creepy to me, go for it, man.
Mm-hmm.
More power to you.
So we both have number 5 this year, which is actually funny.
Yeah.
Coming in number 4, another movie I'd recommend, and it's really sad that I'm having to talk about it here. Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
I missed that one. Oh boy.
So I will say the stuff that does work. The family dynamic is really powerful. There are some really strong effects. The villains of this movie, played by Helen Mirren, Constance Wu, and Rachel Zegler, are fantastic.
Wait, Rachel Zegler is one of the villains?
Yep, she is
Wow.
the sister of Helen Mirren and Constance Wu because they're gods.
I thought it was Lucy Liu.
Sorry, it is Lucy Wu, not
Oh,
Constance Wu. Thank you for being here and checking me on that one. Yeah, Lucy Liu is really good in this. Helen Mirren, of course, is Helen Mirren. Rachel Zegler does some cool stuff because she believably makes you believe she's a high school teenager.
Mhm.
And then, she's a god and she's talking in this old Shakespearean style and meshes the two brilliantly together.
Mm-hmm.
The place this movie falls apart, there's 2 things. One is not as big of a problem, but then the second thing makes it a big problem.
Uh-oh.
The story's a bit bland and generic, but there's enough done that it makes you go, okay, I see why you told this story and why it's as good as it is. The thing that really hurts this movie
Oh no.
is Zachary Levi as Shazam.
Oh no.
So in the very first movie, everyone mentioned, hey, it doesn't feel like they're both the same, but it makes sense because this is a kid with getting powers.
I had that small criticism, and I went to that conclusion.
This is so much worse.
Is this like 180, like night and day?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
like
no.
Asher Angel is clearly giving a way different performance, and a big example is one point Billy's foster mom comes to talk to him, and she says, "Wait, let me talk to my son." And the look Zachary Levi gives goes up to like this 11 like frowny face, and then when he transfers back into Billy with Asher Angel, he's giving this very realistic feared face.
Oh.
So Zachary Levi plays everything and every emotion to like a 20, and it feels so weird. So it really he is on screen for most of the movie.
Is that?
And it pulls down the entire movie with it. And I know this isn't on director David F. Sandberg,
who has said, like, I mean, he doesn't hate this movie or anything, but he says he's glad that he's going to be going back into horror, which I'm glad to see him going back into horror.
Absolutely, because seeing this, everyone else is clearly not doing that.
Oh,
so
no,
it feels like Zachary Levi is going to be not listening to his director. And
okay.
not to get a little too tinfoil hatty, but some of the reactions that Zachary Levi has had in trying to blame Dwayne Johnson maybe confirmed a little bit that he wasn't listening to David F. Sandberg when he was making this movie.
Uh-oh.
It's a real shame because this movie is really fun. I can tell how exciting it is, but it just didn't work.
Interesting. Well, you know what? Follow up one superhero movie with another. Well, DC, you're in luck because I got a Marvel movie on here.
Your number 4 of the year?
Ant-Man 3, or I'm sorry, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But okay, here's the thing with this movie. It took me 2 times to watch it because I fell asleep at one point, and this is the first Marvel movie to make me do something like that. So already not a good sign. Now, like we were saying earlier, not trying to knock the movie, not trying to knock the director. Now, if I'm going to be honest, let me just say right now, the worst MCU movie out there to this day for me is Thor: The Dark World. This, ooh boy. So, well, where do I begin? Because there's quite a bit to not pick apart, but to look at. Case in point, the script. The script feels like it's trying to do this really what's genuine father-daughter dynamic with Hank and his daughter, which I do see it shine through a little bit at parts in the movie, but then something else hinders it. I think this is something a lot of people have been bringing up. It's that it's that Marvel humor that we've been getting. The humor just weighs it down, and the same thing is felt almost everywhere else when you have, say, Michelle Pfeiffer, who is gorgeous in this movie, by the way. Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Douglas, and Evangeline Lilly. We get to Bill Murray, and we're getting all this drama surrounding Kang, but then Bill Murray comes in the picture just to like bring in some comedic levity. So on that note, the script feels like there's just a lot going all over the place in terms of tone. Now, the movie's strength, unfortunately, also turns into the movie's biggest weakness, that being Kang. Jonathan Majors is he's going out there with his performance. Like when he walks in, you feel his presence. You believe this guy is Kang.
And considering this is going to be the one of 2 times we're going to see him in an MCU project as Kang, because yes, Loki seasons 1 and 2 are one project. I mean, at least he gave a good performance.
At least he did. Now, what else do we have? Oh yeah, in terms of script and humor, remember what I was saying earlier. Remember there was a time when Marvel movies just wrote a fun movie, and then there would be a funny line in there, and then we, the audience, would quote or meme that line. It seems like Marvel's trying to do a little bit of both at the same time. It's like they're trying to write a movie and write a bunch of meme-worthy lines instead of, well, writing a good movie.
Yep.
I mean, put it this way, like the big line that we're all supposed to be memeing in this movie is, without going too much into spoilers, we've got a character in this movie Marvel fans may know of named MODOK. Now, I don't know much about MODOK aside from his name. What is it? Not mechanized, mental organism designed for killing. In the movie, it's mechanized. What they do with him, he serves Kang essentially. Like he's his sidekick, and Kang of course pushes him around, and of course he acts like a with everybody, for lack of a better word. I say that because he gets in a fight with a character, he loses that fight, that character says, "Hey, you should stop being a And then he's just kind of sitting there thinking to himself, and then he runs in to save the day and goes, "Hey, I'm not a." It's like that. Wait, that's his arc. He learned to be a good guy, and it's the movie's also like trying to establish a lot too, which is becoming a problem with most comic book movies, at least in the Marvel universe, because they're trying to build up what, Secret Wars or Kang Dynasty? Is that what they're trying to build up?
Yeah, those are the two they're building up to.
Yeah, and right now it's not looking like Jonathan Majors is really going to partake in any of this. But you told me there is a possibility of, say, recasting or not so much retconning, but adjusting.
Yeah,
the villain.
I think that is definitely going to be a thing. And actually, you talking about this being your number 4, it's my number 3 of the year. Of the worst. For me, this is the Batman v Superman of the MCU, where it's trying to set up so many things.
You're probably
that
right.
There's no real emotional connection to what's going on.
That's what I wanted to get at too, for sure.
And I think they really failed at setting up Kang as a threat because he got beaten by Ant-Man. And sure, at the end of the movie, they show us all the Kangs that are coming, and they're like, we're all going to take him on. And I'm like, just get Ant-Man to punch him one at a time as they come through the multiverse, and boom, you're okay.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned earlier as we were talking about this, like, Kang has a moment in the movie where he sees Ant-Man and says, "Oh, are you the guy with the hammer?" And it's like, wait, so the guy who shrinks and the guy with the hammer, how does this guy who's supposed to be this galactic overlord lose to the guy who shrinks?
Yeah, it's like, and I will give credit to some of the things to these visual effects artists who, if you unionize, if you unionize, I understand it because there's a freaking ecosystem going on with the quantum realm.
Yes,
I will also say this is on the direction of this. This is some of the worst use of the volume I have ever seen in a movie.
Really?
Because a lot of people thought it was green screen. Nope. Look at the behind the scenes features. It's mostly the volume, and it does not look good. And again, the volume is a tool like anything else. You need to know how to use it, and it's not used very well here. And I wish it was, but it's not. I'm not very impressed. So
it doesn't help that once we get to the climax, it just becomes, that volume just becomes a hodgepodge of that CGI, like smorgasbord of a finale we see in almost every superhero movie out
And this movie's in trouble when people came out of it and everyone had an opinion of how else you could have done the movie. People with no screenwriting experience were coming up with better things walking out of the theater, and it's like, that should not be happening. Where everybody comes out and says, well, if you did this and this and this, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like, there is a serious danger there. So yeah, I think for your number 4, my number 3, it's a weak spot, and Marvel, I hope you get a little bit better, buddy, because that was tough on you.
That was pretty rough around the edges.
What was your number 3 this year?
Number 3, just because I've been going back and forth to make a decision on, hang on, let me just bring it up. Mainly because this is an interesting person, and it's like, wait, so this is also Ridley Scott, which really just really disappointed me. Yeah. Freaking Napoleon. Look, I love Ridley Scott. The last movie I saw with him, boy, do I wish I saw a movie with him. The last movie I saw directed by him was The Last Duel. And I went out of that movie saying, he's got it. He still freaking got it. I don't care if he's talking about Gladiator 2. I'll still see it because he's still got it because of The Last Duel. I go into Napoleon. Oh, he's directing Joaquin Phoenix. Okay, I don't really personally see him as Napoleon, but okay, let's see what he does. Well, Joaquin knows how to stand still and look serious, dressed like Napoleon did in most of those pictures. So if you want an image of what you're looking at in the movie, yeah, you could just go to a museum and look at a picture of Napoleon for 5 minutes and get a good idea of who he is. You don't need to sit through 2.5 hours long of this. Just, Ridley Scott.
And then knowing that he tried so desperately to release the 4-hour cut into theaters.
Oh my god. Okay, I started getting bored at the 30-minute mark, and this is the mark where he's like trying to marry the woman who would be his wife, and there's a lot to say behind that. The movie has a lot to say. There's just one problem. They don't do a lot of talking. They do a lot of sitting around. It's pretty clear Ridley Scott, okay, I do appreciate when directors try to do this. It's pretty clear Ridley Scott's trying to do the show don't tell technique of filmmaking, which, it's a very novel approach. Moving images. A lot of directors have accomplished this. My personal favorite being Stanley Kubrick. Good God, I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
that guy. I'm pretty sure every time he gets a script, he like legit tears out some of the pages that have too much dialogue in there. This is a movie that needs a little dialogue, maybe just a little bit more, because just sitting around looking at each other in disgust, it's just like, okay, Napoleon was a little guy who got angry every now and then. It's like, come on, guys.
What more do we know about this person?
This man's supposed to be interesting. This man, okay, yes, the Napoleon complex we can laugh at. No, this is a historical figure who conquered lands. And yes, he was horrible to people, but why? What drove him that way? It definitely had nothing to do with his height. It was people constantly questioning like his capability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an ego. That is very much an ego thing. And Ridley Scott could have played with that, but nope.
Great historical dramas take those characters that we see as mythical and bring them down to our level.
Exactly.
And it feels like, from everything I've heard, Ridley Scott is just trying to keep the myth alive with this movie.
Exactly. And it's like look at Goodfellas. We're not supposed to like those men. And yet, I walked out of that movie legit telling myself, yeah, being a gangster really would be cooler than being the president. Not that I'm saying I want to go
Friends
around,
on Film does not condone being in a gang.
Nor does Friends on Film condone being a notorious historical figure who, like I said, murdered a lot of people and conquered a lot of villages. Either way, what I'm trying to say is Ridley Scott took a historical figure who should be interesting, and he just made a 2.5 hour long screensaver of this man.
Let's hope that Steven Spielberg's miniseries he's making for HBO will be more interesting.
Yes.
Because they're apparently using Stanley Kubrick's script for that.
Oh, Kubrick. No, I'm sorry. Spielberg working on a Kubrick script.
Last time that happened was AI, which has mixed reactions. But
AI, the way I see it now, is the Spielberg film that Kubrick, quote unquote, could never make. But I wouldn't even say that so far. But anyway, you're number 3 or 2, I guess.
Number 2. Oh man, this is gonna hurt. Wish. Man, okay. I want to make this clear off the top of my head why this movie frustrates me.
Yeah.
So, co-writer, co-director Fawn Visterhoon, I believe that's how you say her name.
Yes.
This is the first movie she has written and directed.
Yes.
I think that maybe this was not the right movie to give her, because which I'm about to get into why I think this was a tough movie to make.
Yes.
And I don't know if this was the greatest project to give her. Hi, breaking in real quick to say a couple of things. One, her name is pronounced as Fawn Vera Sunthorn. I apologize. And I also said that she co-wrote this movie. She did not. The other screenwriter was Allison Moore. But to co-director Chris Buck, co-writer Jennifer Lee, and producer Peter DeVelcho, who did the Frozen movies, what happened? That's all I have to ask. So, this concept alone is a very tough concept and risky concept because it's the origins of the wishing star. Mm-hmm. This, the whole thing that Disney's iconography is based around.
Exactly.
If you get this wrong, you damage the brand. Mm-hmm. And I think Wish damages the brand.
Oh no.
Because this is really weak.
Okay, now that's not good, y'all. Look, this is Disney we're talking about. This is their 100-year anniversary film. This is supposed to be like a legacy movie right here, and this is what we got. Something tells me, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who thinks this, but did this movie have maybe 10 different scripts going over several years?
What we know is that 2018 was when they started production on this movie, and we have seen some of the early concept art. Now, I will always say, early concept art I take with a lot of salt, because we're just concepts are cool, but they're just, at the end of the day, concepts. We don't know what that overall story could have been. But the concepts that they had were more interesting than what this movie ended up becoming. Because a lot of the story is very bland. And the characters themselves, like Asha and Magnifico, are interesting, but all the rest of the characters are bland and just kind of Disney maybes. Like, there's 7 friends who represent the 7 dwarves, and they're not very interesting. The songs, so they got Benjamin Rice and Julia Michaels, who are pop writers, to write this musical. And they tried to do like the Lin-Manuel Miranda style writing. And all I'll say is, Lin-Manuel Miranda, I'm sorry for whatever I said for Scuttlebutt. Please come back. The songs are not very musical theater oriented.
Because they're pop, yeah.
They also have some weird lyrics, such as the big song This Wish, which might be the best song in the whole movie, is, I look up at the stars to guide me and throw caution to every warning sign. throw caution to every warning sign. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then in the villain song, which is a great title, but it's not a very good song, called This Is the Thanks I Get, King Magnifico sings, I let you live here for free, and I don't even charge you rent.
What? Okay, yeah, that's literally what for free means.
Yeah. And then the next line, I'm here, I clean up all your messes, and I'm always there when you need to vent.
Need to vent, huh?
This is supposed to be an intimidating villain here.
Yeah, what?
And the message of the movie, I don't really know what the message is supposed to be.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
coming out of the story going, I don't know what this message is supposed to be. And I think the biggest problem with this movie is they play it too safe. And for a risky concept, you can't play it safe.
Well, it sounds like also they've got like a lot going on in terms of like what quote unquote the idea they want to make behind Wish, because they don't want it to come off dangerous.
At the end of the day, it's just an idea.
Yeah.
And I also think a big problem in the animation department, because they purposely tried to do it like in the 1950s with those limitations in 3D animation. So they have hand-drawn backgrounds with these characters. The problem is because they're going for a storybook feel, there's no motion blur on the animation and the characters.
Oh no!
So it ends up looking very cheap, and I know it's not cheap to make this movie.
It kind of video game like almost like too pristine, like one of those video games where it's like, yeah, you got that solid static background, then you got the character who's got a little more animation and energy to them. Yeah.
Absolutely, and so because of that, this feels cheap and with a bland story with bland characters with very poor songs.
Yeah.
It's a really disappointing 100-year anniversary movie, and I'm disappointed because Chris Buck, he is the co-director on Tarzan, Surf's Up, Frozen, and Frozen 2.
Okay.
Great director. Peter DelVecchio did Wreck-It Ralph, produced Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen 2, a bunch of other great Disney movies. Jennifer Lee wrote Wreck-It Ralph and was the sole screenwriter on Frozen and Frozen 2.
And she's an executive producer, I believe.
Oh, she is the chief creative officer for
go.
Disney.
There we go. With Pete Docter, right?
No, Pete Docter runs Pixar. She runs Disney Animation.
Oh, okay.
So for your chief creative officer to write a movie that's this bland, it makes me scared for what's coming next.
But hopefully, with that in mind, hopefully this gives them a wake-up call and makes them say, hey, we need to reevaluate what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's like they tried to take a small risk with the animation, but nothing else, because they were saying, oh, we want to take a risk like Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse wasn't just a risk animation-wise.
It was a risk story-wise and just, well, actually just story-wise, because you're going through like several different tones and different ideas. It's a multiverse movie, granted, so there's a lot of different like ideas, but hey.
But then I think of movies like The Bad Guys, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish,
Yeah.
Mitchells versus the Machines.
Like movies that, okay, like I said, Spider-Verse had a lot of ideas, but those movies you just mentioned, those movies have simple ideas, but they add something epic and really, really fun to it. That's the secret sauce. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. It's just something that takes, a little extra, well, it takes, say, 10% inspiration, maybe 90% perspiration.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And for Wish, it makes me just, this is again saying I'm frustrated at them because I know what they're capable of and what they have done. For them to have put this out was really disappointing because this is the team behind Frozen, which changed animation, I think, for the better.
Yes.
And I'm really disappointed that this was the move they made.
Kind of going off, isn't Alan Tudyk in this movie, and isn't he the comic relief?
He has no funny lines.
Uh-oh.
Like, they don't, here's the thing, he's kind of like the Olaf, he's the talking goat.
Of course.
Oh, he's kind of like the Olaf, but remember how Olaf is actually story-focused, central-focused, and plays on the themes while still being a funny character?
In the first movie, at least, and then you get Olaf's adventure, and then it's like, oh, yeah, this is what we could have gotten.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even Olaf's Frozen adventure, I would still argue you get what Olaf represents, which
True,
is this
yeah.
naivete and figuring out the world, and I think that is good for children to have. This character just has a bunch of funny lines that aren't funny, and I've seen the Harley Quinn show. I know how funny Alan Tudyk can be. Why did you not let this man at least improvise?
It's a bad sign when you hire Alan Tudyk and you're Disney and two bad performances. One of them is a chicken. You didn't need him for that.
I still disagree with you. I think the chicken is Hey is one of the funniest things in there.
I'm just not the biggest fan of Hey. And then you've got a goat who is saying stuff and it's not even funny.
And it also, this doesn't help, one of those dwarf characters is played by Evan Peters.
Oh, no.
I didn't even know it was Evan Peters. I'm like, look, the Jeffrey Dahmer movie may not have been great, but he won an Emmy for a reason. Why is he so boring? It's Evan Peters. Like, you have all these talented actors, and you just give him line. Like, Chris Pine is clearly having fun playing Magnifico, but that's because he gets to ham it up and be just suddenly evil in the third act. Like, because the plot demands it. Like, this is such a frustrating movie because I know these guys could do something really cool, and it's a shame.
It's Disney. It's Disney on their 100-year anniversary. I mean, come on. We really expected something magical.
What about your second worst of the year?
Well, you know what's funny? You were talking about Disney, so we're going to jump to a Disney property that was in public domain, or is in public domain. This is a movie I would almost recommend if you're just looking for something dumb to watch, but I can't say I recommend it, just even out of morbid curiosity. Put it this way. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Oh, this movie. I was hyping this movie up. I knew it was going to be a B movie of sorts. I saw the trailer. I was like, yeah, this movie's not going to be any good, but this should at least be entertainingly bad, like, say, Killer Clowns from Outer Space or even Evil Dead, something of that caliber.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just got boring, generic Friday the 13th remake slasher stuff where where Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, they're the only characters they could get for this movie. At least to be in suits and try to look creepy. They're just big lumberjack-looking figures and costumes, standing in the dark, walking really slow to teenagers that you don't really care about. You know the drill.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the kills are all right, and some of the lines are funny here and there, but it's not enough. And actually, if I gotta be honest, the last shot of the movie is really cool. Without spoiling a little bit, actually, the movie ends with Christopher Robin, who actually, okay, I will say this. Christopher Robin's actually kidnapped at the beginning of the movie, and his wife is murdered by piglets. And the whole movie, Christopher Robin's being kept underground, and Winnie the Pooh whips him with Eeyore's tail. I mean, yeah, it sounds funny, but that's like one of the few moments I actually laughed during the movie. Later, here comes the cinematography. Later, there's an explosion in this movie. A car blows up. And there's like barely any lighting. There's these really cool silhouettes, and it's just Pooh holding the final girl, and he's got a knife to her throat, and Christopher Robin's like saying, "No, Pooh, no." It was a cool shot, and the moment kind of made me go, "Oh wow, I'm starting to actually feel kind of bad for Christopher Robin here, at least." But okay, those are some positives. My negatives sadly outweigh these positives. It's boring. It's generic. You just see a bunch of lumberjack figures walking slow. If you've never seen a slasher movie, I guess if this is your entry, kind of like what we were saying with Five Nights, if this is your entry to something like that, go for it, especially if it's Winnie the Pooh. They don't say anything. Funny enough, the script demanded that they couldn't speak because they're back in their feral nature, apparently, and yet they still wear people clothes. And
wow, okay.
Yeah, it's very The movie opens with the story of Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin. They were friends in the woods, a deep 100-acre woods, and then Christopher Robin leaves for college, like Toy Story 3, and then the animals all of a sudden become feral. It's like, I thought these were toys. You're starting to hear why this movie is so like all over the place and how not good it is.
Yeah, and with Mickey Mouse, they're just getting into the public domain, the Steamboat Willie version, and already there's horror movies being made about it.
And now we're also getting Tigger and the sequel to this movie, which I don't think I'm even gonna give a look. I saw what he looks like in images, but I'm just like, no, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, and also I've seen some of the more, like, I should say, pervy shots in this movie. They
were very, like, yeah, they're very just, put it this way, you have pervy shots in horror movies that are iconic, but you know what? At least those movies have their iconography to help support them. These pervy shots, it's just like, okay, the director knows how to direct a pervy shot.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll say about the art of directing a pervy shot right there.
Man, that was... Yeah, I did not check it out. I had no interest. I love Winnie the Pooh as it is. And I don't even think a horror movie in the public domain is a bad idea. I just wish you were creative with it.
There has to be substance. You can't just make Friday the 13th again. Yeah.
So, that's disappointing.
Yeah, and we're getting a sequel.
And the crazy thing is, we're not even at our number ones until now.
And here's something interesting. Up until this point, like some of our movies, my movies, I guess in particular, they were like big budget movies, and then we got to Winnie the Pooh, and that's like low budget. Just wait until you hear what my number one is. But let's get to his.
Number one, this is everything wrong with streaming nowadays.
Ooh.
Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. I can tell you what movie I wanted this to be. There is a 5-minute sequence of flashback about the backstory for the main character, and I wish I was watching that movie because it was the only interesting thing in this movie. That actually felt like, hey, that feels like a Star Wars movie that could be an interesting idea. Nope, what we get is this PG-13 cut. Now let me make this clear to everybody watching. Zack Snyder has said he is proud of this PG-13 cut, which means this is a Snyder cut. I know there's an R-rated version that's apparently more philosophical and more slower.
But put it this way, this is like James Cameron when he made his Terminator movie. When he made the first Terminator movie and then he came out with the extended edition, and when people were saying, oh, was that your director's cut? He said, no, the version I released in theaters was the director's cut. The extended edition is just something I thought I'd give y'all, pretty much. That was the mindset.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing, and it's Netflix trying to recreate the Snyder Cut drama.
Okay, that is just, okay, look, whether or not we liked the Snyder Cut, that's one thing. This, trying to recreate that whole movement, this is pathetic.
Yes, there's some cool visuals in this movie, but the plot is so predictable in a bad way.
Uh-oh.
Like, I don't mind predictable plots if you do something cool or interesting, or if the characters are fun. Simple stories are allowed to exist with fascinating characters. Megamind, I would argue, is a very predictable story, but you actually like the characters to see where it goes.
Yeah.
This one, I don't care about any single character, and the only time I would care about a character is if something horrible was about to happen to them, because I'm a decent human being, and I don't want to see bad things happen to people that we're being told are good.
Mm-hmm.
The only character I liked is the Anthony Hopkins robot, because they put a flower crown on it at one point, and that made me happy. And also, the cinematography, done by Zack Snyder himself, isn't good. The movie is out of focus a good chunk of the time. It's muddily shot, and it also is color grading is just all over the place. It's either brown or orange.
Uh-oh.
It's one of those two, and it doesn't look interesting to look at, and it's not very pretty. And also, the action sequences could be cool if slow-mo wasn't every 2 seconds.
Uh-oh.
And it's just, they're obviously well choreographed, but they're shot just so slow that I'm just like, can we just move on, please? And he keeps saying that this is his version of Star Wars and everything, and this just feels like a pretentious way to tell it, because it feels like a pretentious Star Wars without any heart and charm that makes those movies work. Like, let me put it this way, Rise of Skywalker has more charm than the entirety of Rebel Moon.
I hear where you're coming from, and you know what? Here's the thing: like when you were saying, like, "Oh, it was pretentious," I'm trying to think in Snyder's mind. I was like, "Yeah, we all have our own Star Wars story in our mind. If you're a mega Star Wars fan, and let's put it this way: in our mind, it really looks cool. But you know what? Sometimes all those details probably wouldn't translate well to film."
And my problem with this, saying that this is everything wrong with streaming, it's Netflix and Zack Snyder agreeing to make this big budget film that. Now that thanks to inflation, Netflix is almost $20 a month, and this is what you're giving us as a thank you for spending $20 to watch this movie. Long are the days where we were watching Stranger Things and The Queen's Gambit. We're now watching Rebel Moon, and honestly, Netflix, I'm not going to watch part 2, and I'm not watching the director's cuts. I am done with what you did here. This was so infuriating.
With all that said, I think now that I know what to expect, because I have not seen this movie, I'm going to wait for that director's cut, and I'm going to do the opposite. I'll watch that first, and then I'll watch what we got. Well, I guess the theatrical cut is.
Quote-unquote theatrical, even though they put it out on streaming?
Yeah. Do the reverse of what I did for, the Snyder cut somewhat. That'd be interesting.
So, what do you have for number 1, your worst of the year?
No, see, this movie's interesting. Like I was saying earlier, this movie is not a movie that was released in theaters. It did have a budget, and it is a superhero movie. Now, this is a movie, you were saying with your movie, with Rebel Moon, that is a movie that defines everything wrong with streaming. This is a movie that just defines everything wrong with filmmaking, and that's an even bigger crime against humanity.
Man.
Yeah, okay. The movie I'm going to talk about is Spider-Man Lotus. What is this movie? Well, it is a 2-hour-long YouTube movie made by a man who said some pretty wild things. This is probably going to be one of those moments where I talk more about what happened behind the scenes of the movie as opposed to the actual story, because let me tell you something. The story's not much to get behind, okay? It's just, okay. Spider-Man is essentially coping with the loss of Gwen Stacy, and he's trying to manage his life with his friends. It's very mopey and sad, like those old CW shows we probably saw. Smallville probably did this a little bit. One Tree Hill probably did this, except they had writers like that had worked. I'm not saying, okay, this is not me trying to say anyone behind a fan film is talentless. It's just they had a team. They had a bigger team and a studio.
And a team and a story, and they at least cared about their characters.
Exactly.
Smallville, The Flash, for all those CW shows that did go downhill afterwards, there's a reason people watched them.
Because
they were very good.
Yes. Exactly. This is just a movie about a kid who's trying to get over the loss of someone who died, which, okay, yes, we all go through that at some point. Here's the problem. It's not paced very well. We just get a lot of stock drone footage of New York. We get them walking around, moping, and like flopping their arms around. And we get a few action sequences with Spider-Man. And now I will say the Green Goblin suit on this Green Goblin for a fan film kind of makes me wish we got that for Sam Raimi's film, actually, with Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe and Green Goblin makeup would still be amazing. But okay, you got one decent costume and an okay action sequence. Now we're back to moping again. We're with emo Harry Osborn and with banged Mary Jane. And this director's not very good at establishing love relationships. I understand in the comics they were friends, but there was also that love tension. The director does not show that at all here. He just shows that he cares for his friends, and at the same time he just shows he's sad that his other friend Gwen Stacy's gone. What are you saying, dude? Are you just trying to tell us that teens get sad when they lose their friend? I know that. Okay. I've ranted on about how plotless this movie is. You're probably wondering what's really bad about this movie. This movie was made in a place of hatred. This movie was made by a man, I don't remember his name, sadly, I don't have it written down, but it was made by a director who claims that the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies suck. Like, that's not Spider-Man, that is the poor representation, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, and the original Spider-Man theme, yeah, they're just cannibalizing off nostalgia, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All this hatred, and then he builds it up to saying, I can do better. I'm going to make my own Spider-Man movie. I'm going to make it for $25,000. Surprisingly, he managed to rack up $150,000, I believe, from his GoFundMe, which, well, good for him, I guess. But, okay, production starts. Some people are not having the best experience with this director. In fact, some people are... One PA who got fired from the project because he and the director didn't get along, understandably so, he held on to some conversations that were exchanged between the crew, some stuff that was on social media, and what he had to say, obviously stuff I am not going to say out here out loud because that's not the kind of person I am, but he really likes to say the N-word left and right. Pretty much. That's what he likes to. That's pretty much what he did. And he said, and when I say left and right, he says it like, oh yeah, you can just say it. It's not like times are changing or anything like that.
It's totally like that's not a slur that has actually legitimately hurt people and demeaned them and demoralized them.
Mm-hmm. And to make matters even worse, his friend, who is also the co-writer and star of the movie, the man who plays Spider-Man, okay. He also partakes in this activity of saying things you shouldn't be saying. And then he issued an apology. Both men issued an apology, none of which were taken.
Didn't it come out that he was actually also a former Klan member?
I don't think it was more or less that he was a Klan member. I'd have to look that up. But the co-writer, this was his excuse. If you want to call it that. He said, look, I'm sorry for what I said. I know it was really out there. The thing is, I was homeschooled a lot of my life, and I grew up in a very Christian conservative environment. I was like, whoa,
as
wait a
somebody
minute.
who grew up in a Christian conservative house as well, and loves my family to death, hi mom and dad, I adore you and love you, and you did a great job raising me right. That is the worst excuse you can give.
So what are you saying?
Because I grew up because I'm still very much a Christian.
Yes.
And I can tell you that I know no racist Christians. I'm not saying they don't exist.
Oh, yes.
I have definitely heard of them. I've seen them online.
Oh, exactly.
But the environments that I grew up in were not racist people. So for that to be your excuse,
So what are you saying?
is even more demeaning.
Yeah, you're saying, if you grew up in a Christian conservative environment, you should hate me even more because, yeah, that's what we do. I hang out with you. You have not said one single slur of any kind around anybody at all. So yeah, what is that saying about you, man? You just, it shows that you're not really that matured emotionally, and you just, all you know how to do is, shift blame onto something that you know. That's it. And yeah, that's what I mean by where this movie came from a place of hatred. It came from a man who talked big game, said that Tom Holland Spider-Man is like, you want to know something funny? The director, John Watts, he came out and he approached him on Instagram. He saw the trailer for this guy's movie, Spider-Man Lotus. Oh, by the way, I don't know why it's called Lotus. A lotus flowers blooms, something like that. It's philosophical. Didn't make any sense in the movie. Anyway, John Watts approached this guy on Instagram after he saw this guy's trailer. And he said, hey man, really excited to see this movie. Oh, this is the guy you were just trash talking earlier and he's complimenting you. What do you got to say about that? Oh, nothing. Okay. See?
Oh, it wasn't nothing. He then proceeded to still
Yeah.
badmouth him.
Yeah.
After all that.
Just look, okay. I'll be honest. Tobey Maguire will always be in my heart as Spider-Man. But you know what? Tom Holland did a pretty solid job. And so did Andrew Garfield. I'm glad I live in a world where I have 3 awesome live-action Spider-Men. Why can't this guy feel the same? I'm not saying we should all feel the same. I'm just like, come on, dude.
They clearly love this character as much as you claim to love this character.
Yeah, this dude, again, the guy who hates this version of Spider-Man says, I love him more than this guy. You made this out of hatred, dude. That's why I think this is the biggest sin. You made something out of hatred, and it has nothing to do with him even like having those beliefs and saying those words. It was literally out of a place of just, I can do better, and this is better because I know this. Just like, come on.
Honestly,
man.
it doesn't sound like everything wrong with filmmaking. It sounds everything wrong with fandom and
Yes.
low-budget filmmaking.
Exactly.
Where somebody thinks they can do better, so they go and do it, and it's not good, and it's all coming from a place of hate. And so where we're seeing streaming making something from a place of greed and this idea that they can do better, we see somebody low budget who's also believing they can do better.
But that's hate. Yeah.
It's still made from a place that's not very strong, and I think all in all, I can see easily why these are our number one worst of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I could sit here with you and say, well, greed, for lack of a better word, is good, but you know what? I don't think that's applicable here, especially with Netflix doing what they're doing. I understand why Netflix is struggling, but man, y'all, everybody needs to reevaluate themselves every now and then.
And the thing is, I just don't like talking bad about movies at all.
I mean,
it's not... Because it's never fun. It's honestly draining, and it makes you feel worse.
Sometimes it can be fun to like tear apart something that's like, yeah, that's bad. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't want to trash that person's work too much. I don't want to make them feel bad about themselves.
And 2023, if these were our 5 worst, I still said I liked Five Nights at Freddy's and Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Yeah.
Let's actually switch gears here, and let's go into our list of the top 5 best of the year. The films that we felt objectively, so this is our objective opinion, what we felt were the highest elevated form this year that told stories the best.
Some of these may or may not wind up on our favorites. Let me put it this way. When it comes to our favorites and what we liked, I'm in the position of watching stuff whenever I like to watch them, and I try to avoid what I don't like to watch, and thankfully I'm in the position where a lot of what I watched was pretty good, but I didn't get to watch everything, sadly. So if what I list on this list maybe sounds mid or whatever, look, man, it's me recommending you see something.
This is our objective and sort of subjective best of the year.
Note to the listeners, Ben did not understand that this was the best category and instead gave his favorites. His best of the year is Poor Things. They will discover this only at the end.
And coming in for me at number 5 is Air, directed by Ben Affleck.
Ooh.
So this is a great ensemble piece directed by, I believe he may have written scripts, but we haven't seen them yet. This is his first one we've seen publicly. His name is Alex Convery. And Alex Convery wrote this script about Nike making the shoe for Michael B. Jordan. for Michael Jordan.
Yes, yeah.
Not Michael B. Jordan, sorry about that. Cinephile. For Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. Sorry, LeBron. No, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time.
100%.
And Ben Affleck is coming into this after being Batman, and this is the first film he has directed in a long time, and it is spectacular.
Here's the thing. The last movie he directed, which I don't even remember the name, sadly don't even remember the movie, that was when he was Batman, and he was like kind of burning out. This is him after being Batman.
Mm-hmm.
What a step.
And getting better.
Yeah.
And here, the great ensemble piece, of course, includes Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Viola Davis, and just absolutely great. Everyone is so sharp in this. And as somebody who's not a big sports fan or in general,
Yeah.
this was a fascinating movie. We saw this on my mom's birthday, and my mom is the biggest Michael Jordan fan out there.
Mm-hmm.
She adored this movie.
Oh,
She was...
nice.
We all walked out of there just stunned. It's so well edited, too. It's well shot, well edited. It's a very interesting story.
Yes.
And it's not a very big movie, per se, but the ensemble piece of it just makes it all come alive in a really cool story in a really great way.
Yes.
I'd highly recommend Air. It's on Amazon Prime. It's definitely worth your time.
Gotcha. Well, I've got quite a bit to say, even from the bit I didn't always get to watch. This year, it's funny. We've got horror movies surrounding around Halloween. We've got horror movies surrounding around Christmas. We've even got a horror movie surrounding around Valentine's Day and even freaking St. Patrick's Day with Leprechaun. You know what's missing? Thanksgiving. Eli Roth, man, I gotta be honest. Okay, I'm not gonna say I wasn't the biggest fan of you, but I didn't watch all of your stuff with the most enthusiasm. But now that I've rewatched Thanksgiving, now that I've seen Thanksgiving and rewatched some of your stuff, I gotta say, you've really changed my perspective on, at least with grindhouse cinema. It's like, you know what? There may not have to be too much substance behind the story. It just has to be made by someone who really loves making what they're making. And that's what Thanksgiving feels like. Look, let's look at it this way. Yes, this is a movie where it begins with a Black Friday store slaughter. How bad? Yes. The movie's not even about Thanksgiving. It's about Black Friday.
That's incredible.
Now, okay, one small criticism I have. The movie does not take place in the right time period. It takes place in 2023. Black Friday massacres have not happened probably since the beginning of, say, 2010.
Missed opportunity to be set in 2005.
Exactly. That's when the movie should have been set. But if that's my only criticism, and if I enjoyed everything else, man, Thanksgiving is a bloody, bloody good time. It's also, and here's the thing. You know how horror movies out there try to like have something to say that's topical or whatever? In some ways it does. It's mainly poking at the greed of corporate businesses being open on days when they shouldn't be open, and let alone being understaffed. Which, to be honest, it may not be the strongest message, but as someone, you and I, as people who have worked in an industry where we've had to work days when we're understaffed, and then we get something like this that's just like, man, yeah, can totally relate. I'm just glad I'm still alive from all that. You know what? I'm glad I have something like this to look back on. And Eli Roth, mad respect now, forevermore. I hope I meet you at Alamo Drafthouse, because I know you visit sometimes.
My number 4 best movie of the year goes to the ending of a trilogy. And hey, Marvel, you were on the worst of the year, but you still made it to the best of the year with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I think that might be on there too for me.
Your number 4 as well?
Yeah, Guardians. Okay, let's start with you.
I think, just for one thing, this is a phenomenal farewell to this version of the Guardians.
Yes.
It feels like there is a complete story, mostly with Rocket going on.
Yeah.
But mostly it feels like a great way for James Gunn to shut the lights off on his time in the MCU, and I'm so excited for Superman Legacy.
Me too.
I don't think anything can express how excited I am.
Me too, yeah.
It is such an incredibly emotional movie that pays off so well. I am going to cry if I think any more about this movie. It's so great. What did you think?
Well, if we're talking crying, oh man. Okay. When this movie came out, Cinco de Mayo, when this movie came out, a friend of mine named Anais moved out of town. And she moved with her boyfriend out to Washington, I believe, or Seattle. I don't remember. She moved to another state, essentially. And her best friend, who also calls her sister, Emma, she invited me to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We both went to see that movie. We cried maybe at least quite a bit, especially at the ending, because, well, let's put it this way. Anais, when you come back here, Emma and I, we're sitting you down. You're going to watch that movie. And once you finish watching that movie, you'll understand what you did to us. Yes. That's how hard the movie hit us both.
Oh man, I was holding the doors open for people as they were leaving the theater, and just the red puffy-eyed of just like every single person in that crowd. It is a great film, and it makes me go, okay, Marvel, you can still do it.
Yeah.
You can still get this. Like, and this came out right after Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So
that was a good, that's good refresh right there.
And
yeah.
it was Disney's only real success this year.
Really,
So
come to think of it, yeah.
It was their only box office hit, so...
And you know what? This movie, yes, this movie may not be quote-unquote as funny as the other two movies. I understand that. You want to know why? Because this is a farewell movie, and it's also a character study with Rocket that I'm so glad we got. So I'm glad risks were taken. Case in point with Rocket's backstory. Granted, you may know where some of those elements are going, but hey, it's something. It's something to hold you over throughout the movie. And James Gunn is the man of the year for PETA. That's for sure. 'Cause you hate, what's that guy's name? The High Collective?
The High Evolutionary.
The High Evolutionary. You hate that guy so much, and for all the right reasons. The way like he talks and presents himself, my greatest vision is to create the perfect society. And then when he, without spoiling too much, when he does something terrible to a certain group of animals that Rocket knows, and when Rocket's reaction had me bawling, and then right when the Higher Evolutionary is responding to Rocket's reaction, I wanted to do exactly what Rocket did in that moment. Yeah.
And it makes me so excited for what DC is about to become and what he's going to do with Superman.
Yeah. If I had maybe one small criticism, I don't know if you agree with me on this. I'm not saying he was handled poorly. He's kind of there because the second movie established him. Adam Warlock, I don't think he has enough.
I don't think there was too much. I will say, though, all the flying scenes were super cool, and I'm guessing those were test runs for Superman, and if they look as good as they did in Guardians, I'm so excited.
And you know what? Without spoiling too much also, I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3, to this day, I think that is the best adaptation of Noah's Ark that I have ever seen. And if you once you watch the movie, when you watch the movie, you will understand. I can't say enough how just heartfelt and personal this movie felt.
That's great.
And James Gunn, I can't wait to see what you're doing for Superman, and please hire us at DC.
Only if you need to.
Yeah.
So coming in for my number 3 best of the year is Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. I'm specifically talking about the English dub. I understand the Japanese sub is also really great, but the English dub was incredible. Specifically, Robert Pattinson as the Heron is surprising because I didn't know it was him until I saw the credits and I was like, that was him.
Wow.
But you also have, of course, the alumnus are there, and to give credit, a lot of the alumnus, like Christian Bale, are playing very small bit parts in the film, but they still bring 110% that I won't spoil anything, but I'll just say there is a line reading Christian Bale gives that had the entire audience laughing, and he is in this movie maybe 2 minutes and in total, and it is so well done. But the other great thing is the animation is just gorgeous. This is a trippy, wild ride.
Yes.
And it grabs you and holds you and doesn't let you go as it tells this metaphorical tale of grief in a really powerful way. And it also helped by the score by Joe Hisashi, which I have been listening to on and off. The score for this movie is spectacular.
I mean,
it is emotional, it's powerful, it pulls you in. And I honestly think The Boy and the Heron isn't the right title for this movie. The original Japanese title, How Do You Live, is way better because it emphasizes the movie way stronger.
Do you think it was changed because an anime won't sell with that title? I doubt that. Well,
I mean, so many people were walking into that theater because it was Miyazaki.
And we know, if you don't know who Miyazaki is at this point, let me tell you something. He made a movie with Disney called Princess Mononoke. Now, technically it was
He didn't make it with Disney, they just bought it.
They bought it, yeah. It was with Miramax, but Disney eventually bought it. And this is a movie where our main character decapitates people.
And it also became the inspiration for most of the Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. Without deviating too much into that. So just to know the kind of director Miyazaki is, but he's also the director that gave us Ponyo.
Ponyo, he gave us
Howl's
Howl's
Moving
Moving Castle,
Castle,
Spirited Away.
My personal favorite, Donario no Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro.
That's a great one. And yeah, Boy and the Heron was nothing short of a spectacular film. And I still don't think it's the best animated movie of the year, but I'm gonna wait for that.
You know what?
Why don't you drop in with your number 3?
I've got an animated movie that, it's not at the same caliber maybe as The Boy and the Heron.
Mhm.
It probably isn't going to be thought of as, profoundly, but I'm glad an Illumination movie made me smile and laugh, and that movie was the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, really? This is your number 3 best of the year?
Yeah.
Huh. Go ahead.
Yeah, best of the year, I mean, here's the thing. This is my history with Illumination. I saw Despicable Me in 2010. I was 15. It was fine for what it was. Minions were a bit annoying, but it was fine. And then Despicable Me became really popular, and the Minions were all over the place. And I'm in that phase of my life where I'm like, I don't really like this. What else is Illumination doing? Oh, they did Secret Life of Pets. It's okay. And then we got a Minions movie, didn't we? 2 Minions movies, right?
Yep.
And I believe those movies did well, but I'm not the age group for those movies. Neither one of us are. That's not to say you have to be a certain age to watch those movies. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I am so glad that Super Mario won me over immediately, because here's the thing about Illumination. And this is not to diss them at all. It's just a different style. Pixar writes very heartfelt stories that make you think a little bit. Like once it's over, you kind of realize, oh, that's what they were saying, or maybe you realize it right then and there in that moment. Illumination's very much there to entertain your kids.
Yep.
Again, not to diss them. That's fine. We can have kids movies. It's nice to have family movies too.
Mm-hmm.
But now that being said, Super Mario Brothers found that perfect mash of, let's put it this way. You know how the movie Ready Player One was essentially a meta movie with references all over the place?
Yeah.
And look, whether or not you read the book, it's all right, but there's not really much to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie where they can just have a lot of meta references, and it works. It works so well because, playing video games, that's the intended audience, which is a lot of people out there, they're going to see all those meta references. And not only that, the performances all around, okay, Chris Pratt as Mario. Let me just get out of the way. Was it my number 1 choice to play Mario? No. Did I hate it immediately? No. Did I need to hear a little bit more? Yeah, of course I did. And from what I heard, it was pretty good. But he is outshined by a couple other people, in my opinion. He's outshined mainly by, well, if they make a sequel, which I'm sure they will. It was $1 billion movie, so yeah, they're going to make that sequel. If they can give us a movie where him and Charlie Day's Luigi are focused well enough, I think that could make an amazing duo.
Mm-hmm.
But it also helps to have the amazing Jack Black as Bowser. Oh my god, we went from Kung Fu Panda, Jack Black, just
a great performance.
Great performance. Yeah, Kung Fu Panda, and he's he's a good guy. We've always seen him play a good guy. Come on. Yeah, Shark Tale, Nacho Libre, and Kung Fu Panda. It's nice to see him play a villain now. And I didn't even know that was him when I heard him. I was like, wait, that's supposed to be Jack Black? And then when he starts singing Peaches, I started hearing the voice a little bit, but that made me laugh even harder. Because Peaches, I guess, much like Let It Go, just was played left and right everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And what's even funny is, unlike Let It Go, where I did hear the song before the movie came out, people were asking me, hey, you know about Peaches? Yeah, Peaches. What are you talking about? Then I see the movie, I'm like, okay. Now, how about also a little Mario Kart with some Mad Max? Yeah. The movie's got everything. If you're a gamer, you like video games, you just like a good time that doesn't make sense, but it's still just a good time because that's a Mario game in general. Yeah, this movie.
I will say I am going to talk about Super Mario later on.
Oh.
I will not talk about it just now. I'm going to save my opinions for that.
Yeah.
For now, I'll jump into my number 2, what I think is the best animated movie of the year, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Ooh, I'll say something about that here and there.
Wonderfully directed, spectacularly written, sublimely acted.
Animated, yeah.
Sublimely acted, and film with a score by Daniel Pemberton that had another movie not come out this year, I'd be screaming from the hills for this score to win Best Original Score at the Oscars. Because holy crap, I am blown away by how you somehow outdid yourself from the first spectacular Into the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
Across the Spider-Verse is this brilliant piece.
Yes.
Of just that brilliantly takes this multiverse concept, runs with it, and tells a story that the more you dissect it, the better it gets. The more emotional it gets.
Mm-hmm.
The harder the story hits. Like, this is a movie that the more you watch it, the better it gets. And it's really just this masterpiece of a movie that I cannot recommend enough. Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, and I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Oh, I can't wait for that one too.
This movie ends on such a powerful cliffhanger that makes you say, please let me see that third movie as fast as possible, because it's incredible. And even this is not even my number one, but this movie, I can't even just fully break down why it's so perfect. Really, you just have to see it to believe it.
What were we on? Number 2? Number 3?
Number 2.
Number 2. So number 2, I'm bouncing around a little bit in terms of quality, of course, because like I said, I didn't get to see too much. So here's a movie that my biggest criticism for it does play it safe. And sadly, it is another movie within a franchise that is sadly running on fumes. But I will be honest, like several years later of watching Michael Bay do the same thing over and over, and then seeing that there's another Transformers movie come out and rolling my eyes, only to go in and watch it and say, hey, that actually wasn't half bad. You know what? I liked Rise of the Beasts. I'll be honest. I liked Rise of the Beasts. A movie that said, hey, let's actually just make Transformers. And you know what? Like I said, it does play some things safe, but you want to know what it doesn't play safe with? It doesn't play safe with Optimus too much, actually. Put it this way, and without going too much into spoilers, in the other movies, Optimus has always been the, optimistic type. He always delivers the speech of, believing in yourself, and he does the freedom fighter stuff. This movie, the minute he meets a human, you think you're going to get, oh, I'm Optimus Prime. We are Autobots from the planet Cybertron. No, this is his first reaction when he meets a human. This is a human. Why is he here? We don't trust humans. Oh. This Optimus is different. In fact, he's pessimistic. Interesting. Okay, it's different. And on top of that, just a great performance from a really hilarious comedic performance from Pete Davidson, who I gotta be honest, I haven't been the biggest fan of his. I think his comedy's fine, but he seems like the kind of guy who, for me, would be funny if I'm hanging around him. But when I'm watching him on television, he's like, he's all right, I guess.
He's really great with John Mulaney, though.
Oh, yes. That is so
Netflix,
true.
you screwed it up by not... They went on tour together in 2019, and Netflix didn't film a special with them. No. John Mulaney and Pete Davidson, and you didn't think to film that Netflix, but you gave Ricky Gervais another special?
Oh,
come on, man.
Ricky Gervais. I mean, I had nothing against that guy, but I mean, come on. Those two would have been great. While this movie, like I said, not breaking any new records, I'm glad that it's taking a step back and reevaluating itself and just being what it is. It's Transformers, and I got what I got. And you know what? It's pretty cool hearing Ron Perlman and Peter Cullen together say, Maximals, Autobots, roll out. Just, I don't know. I don't know what this movie did to me. It put me in a good mood. I can't explain it. I don't have a scientific explanation. Just... If you saw the trailer for this movie and thought it looked okay enough, yeah, give it a look. Go for it. Now, number 1 is something special because it's a movie you and your bro showed me, but I'll save that for later.
My number 1 best movie of the year, which I think we're going to get into favorites very soon, and I'm very excited about it. But my number 1 best of the year, Oppenheimer.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. This movie is, in every sense of the word, is Christopher Nolan taking everything he has learned about film and throwing it all on the screen with a stacked cast that I don't think there's a bad performance in this movie.
The
with Cillian Murphy just murdering it as Oppenheimer.
And yeah, at the same time, you've got actors who just act around him just all over. Just you're wondering who's going to get an Oscar nod, if not Cillian Murphy too.
The script is stellar, which was written in first person. Which as an actor myself, I'm jealous. Cillian Murphy got a first person script by the director. But then the thing that really elevates this, and where I think Ludwig Göransson is going to win an Oscar this year, his score isn't just breathtaking. It's music changing. With the theme, can you hear the music changing tempo and tune all in one go? And they recorded that all in one take.
Wow.
Which has not been done that often in music, in general. And so Ludwig Göransson did something beyond with the score. But then this whole film has been building on one little mystery that we've been wondering about the whole time.
Yes.
What was said at that lake between Oppenheimer and Einstein? And without spoiling it, what they talk about and what they show at the very end is so haunting and so harrowing that every audience I have seen going out of this is just silent.
Exactly.
And it is one of the most frightening powerhouse endings of all time. And it really elevates this film to what I think 2023 brought us the best of.
Yeah, now let's keep in mind, I'll go into more details about what happened with Oppenheimer with you and me another point, but yes, with Oppenheimer just elevating everything from one area to another, and on top of all that, just really not just hammering the message, but it's more or less, Nolan likes to play with time, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know this about him. And Tenet, maybe he played with time a little too much. Here, he's back to basics. He's back to playing with time at just the right moment. And that's not the only thing that keeps you on the edge of your seat, knowing what was said. It's knowing what's being done right then and there. And you're just trying to piece together, wait, is this not okay, but it's like, wait, what is this just something that, Einstein knew about but is just kind of letting it happen, or what's going on? But on top of all that, there's question about Oppenheimer in general and his public interest, essentially, which they do play they do play around with quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They really, obviously they don't make you think he's going to betray America right then and there, but they really go into his background as he was a communist, right? Yeah.
No, he had dabbled with communists and was in relationship with Kitty, who was a communist person.
Okay.
But he heard what they had to say, and that made the American government wary of what he was saying and potentially saying to the Russians. But
because the movie made it seem like he did.
Okay. But what really, he was more acting in a self-interest of I can create this thing. But upon seeing that destruction and what it could create, what he did create, made him realize that he was now Death, the destroyer of worlds, and now he was the American Prometheus.
Exactly. I'll talk more about Oppenheimer at some other point, but yeah, the number one. Oh wait, what do you want? Do you want to say anything further, or?
No, I think I'm ready to hear your number one best of the year.
Well, number one best of the year so far. Again, very objective. And while I did say I would have Oppenheimer at some point, well, this is a movie that came from a franchise that, I'll be honest, I was just kind of, it's pretty cool. And then this guy introduced me to its prequel, and I realized, wow, this is cool. That was The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Really? That's your best of the year?
Best of the year?
Yeah, this has been the best of the year.
Oh, this has been best of the year? Well...
So, just for context, how we're recording this, it was supposed to be worst best than our favorites. I believe Ben has been talking about his favorites the entire time.
Well, no, not so much favorites. No, I thought I was... Favorites and best I do flip-flop, but you know what? When people hear my favorites, they'll understand where I'm coming from.
So you believe Ballad of Songbirds was the best of the year?
I'll say that for now. Yeah, it was the best of the year because actually, if I'm being honest,
because the way you had talked about Poor Things was insane.
Yeah. Okay, it's pretty clear that I approached this podcast in a somewhat confused mind state. So, for Michael, I apologize.
Oh, you are totally fine, man.
This is only our second episode, and I've already fumbled.
Oh, technically the first episode that's getting publicly released.
There we go. Okay, you know what? Let's just, you know what? I'm not ashamed of myself. Yes, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is the best of the year. You want to know why? Because I got the Revenge of the Sith movie 2.0 that I never got. I came from an environment where, yes, environment. I grew up in a family where, yes, I did watch a lot of Disney movies growing up, and I enjoyed them. In fact, my personal favorite Disney movie was Pinocchio. So that tells you what kind of movies I liked eventually. So then I started watching some darker stuff like, say, Watership Down, An American Tail, The Land Before Time. And so, taste starts growing a little bit. Then I see a movie called Revenge of the Sith where the bad guys win. And then I was 10 when that movie came out, and I'm going the rest of my life. Now, I'm not saying exactly what happened verbatim in Revenge of the Sith needs to happen. I just would like something. I want that similar kind of feeling of, wow, the bad guys won. I wanted that again, and I got that with this movie. And you know what? I couldn't have felt more happier to have seen something like that, especially from, like I said, a series I didn't really have too much interest in, but thought was all right. Now, here's the thing. I went in, like I said, went in this movie very open-minded. At first when I saw, what's the main actor's name who plays Snow?
Tom Blythe.
Tom Blythe. I was gonna call him Timothy Blythe. Tom Blythe. At first, you watch him and you think, oh, he's just a hunk. Yeah, that's all he is. Let the movie sit. He starts turning into a complex human being who thinks he understands the world around him, but as he progresses through his, say, adventure, he learns he's playing a game himself. It's not just the games he has to help someone else with. He himself is in a game, which, without spoiling too much, that's very much the focus of the movie and what this world is. You are within your own arena, and you have to do what you have to do to survive. And the movie also, what The Godfather 2 did brilliantly, it showed a character sacrifice everything that was good for the greater good. And I think sometimes, and I'm not saying I'm not saying I would do that in real life. I'm just saying, a movie really left an impact when you're rooting for someone who is not a good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Battle of the Songbirds and Snakes was pretty incredible to me, and giving out my honorable mentions of this year just very quickly was Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which was incredibly fun, and that is the best Marvel movie that came out this year if you want that style.
Yes.
And I really want those directors to do X-Men. Wonka was my number 2. It was a movie I had no hope of, and when I saw it, I was blown away. I am never going to ignore what Paul King does again.
Yeah.
And the message of the movie is chocolate is good when you share it with everyone, and I feel like that's just Paul King's whole motto as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
He is sharing something that is of high quality and of high value, but it's only good if everyone else can have it. Which, after seeing the pretentiousness of the year, and especially talking about our worst of the year, having a director say, no, this is what makes it all worth it.
Yes.
That I will agree with. And then my number 1 honorable mention, and probably was my favorite movie of the year to watch, and I've rewatched it a bunch of times, was Mario.
Aww.
The animation was great. It was fun. I'm a huge Mario fan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was going to my honorable mentions, and I'm also going to throw in Barbie there because that was a very, very fun time.
My honorable mentions, here's one honorable mention, because essentially the list I gave you was that. Like I said, I was very confused. So here's an honorable mention that probably would have made this list had I learned there wouldn't be a sequel coming later, and that would be Saw X. A movie that, look, what the Saw 7 was, it ended the series, and then we get Jigsaw and Spiral, which kind of took the series in weird directions and not always for the best. Saw X was just a return to form that it was a bloody good time, just like Thanksgiving. And look, here's the thing. The fact that Tobin Bell is now going to act alongside, I believe, Sir Ian McKellen.
Ooh.
Okay, look, even if you haven't seen the Saw movies, watch Tobin Bell as an actor. Just watch Tobin Bell's sequences in those movies. And look, I don't care if you disagree with what he's saying as Jigsaw. I don't care if you don't agree with him. Just watch him perform. He believes he's this serial killer, and now he believes he's this serial killer who's doing well, and he's so genuine. And now you're going to see this guy who plays a great serial killer act alongside a man who's just known for being larger than life whenever he's on screen, and he hasn't even been in that much in recent, Ian McKellen. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see. And yeah, this was really fun.
Very fun.
Hey boys, can I tell you my picks for 2023?
Oh, we gotta go, Gary. Our time's up.
Yeah, but you know what, Gary? Feel free to head on over to Instagram at friendsonfilm_2023, where we love to see what you pick.
See you later, Gary.
So long. Friends on Film is produced by Michael Andrew Dinan, T.M. Lin, and Benjamin Trevino. Written by Michael Andrew Dinan and Benjamin Trevino. Music by Jared Walker, and logo by Corbin Clymer.